Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Mountaineer Postgame Show. I'm Schuyler, that's Eugene, Napoleon, and we are here to recap what just went down at Acrisure Stadium. A 10-point lead late in the fourth quarter blown by the Mountaineers to lose the 107th edition of the Backyard Brawl, 38-34. Quick look here at the numbers before we dive into this one. Garrett Green, 16 of 30, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Obviously, one of them being the game ender there at the end of the fourth quarter. C.J. Donaldson, 19 carries, 79 yards, and a touchdown. Meanwhile, Eli Holstein did pretty much what we expected him to do, carving up the Mountaineer defensive secondary, 21 of 30 for 301 yards and 3 scores. And there's just so much to unpack, Gene. I mean, there's a lot that we can really dive into. We can get into the game and all that stuff. Personally, I think we could talk about a lot of that next week on the game day show and even on Between the Years. We've got a lot of content now between now and next week's game against Kansas. So feel free to take this whenever you want.
Well, let me say this. First off, I know you can see that I'm traveling. My beautiful wife she's driving, so I'm safe. I'm not driving on the show. Let me say this, Schuyler. First off, I'm beyond pissed. Okay? We're up by 10 late in the fourth quarter. And for some unforsaken reason, I had it like in the pit of my stomach that we were going to mess around and lose this freaking game. We're going to find a way to lose this game. Here's the deal. You cannot lose a game like this when you're up by 10 late in the fourth. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to tell you why. It didn't look like Neal was coaching to win the freaking game. It looked like Neal was coaching to kind of keep it close.
And to not lose it.
Some of the calls offensively and not to look right. You're up by freaking 10 points, my guy. Let's go. Let's do some different things. Let your offense. Okay. Here's the deal, right? Remember I said to you, the fans get upset with some of the calls, some of the things that Green is doing, right?
He doesn't
Green
call
is
the
not
plays.
calling his own plays. He does not call the plays. So when you're calling whack plays and you're expecting this young man to go out and execute it, it's not a good look.
Yep.
So what bothers me, as a head coach, up by 10, the good ones find a way to win, Schuyler. The good ones find a way to win. Just like Narduzzi found a way to come back in a 10-point deficit to win. Now, explain to me, why is it or how is it possible and conceivable that Pitt can find a way to win down by 10, but we can find a way to lose up by 10? Make it make sense.
That's a great
math, Schuyler.
That's a great way to put it. And here's my opinion. I have a lot to say about the first half. I'll wait to do that next week. The end of the game was mishandled, just like the end of the first half was mishandled. I'll speak quickly on that. Neal Brown shouldn't have called a timeout at the end of the first half when he did with 20-some seconds left to go. If you're going to kick it, you bring the clock all the way down to 3 seconds, then you call timeout. You don't need to call timeout to think about whether you're going to kick the dang field goal or not. You should already have that decision made up by then. So you just allowed Pitt to have a chance.
Absolutely.
Now, luckily, nothing happened there for him, but he kind of played with fire there. At the end of the second half, you're up 10, 4 minutes or so to go. To me, and this kind of goes into what you're saying about playing or coaching the game to not lose instead of playing to not win, or instead of playing to win.
Right.
It almost felt like they felt like the game was already in their hands. Like, you're running the ball on 2nd and 9. You know they're loading the box. They're going to call timeouts. They're going to stop you. Why are you not play actioning that thing or have an RPO attached to it? Probably even better, have an RPO attached to it. That way, if the run is there, you can hand it off. If not, for a quick little out to Cole Taylor or Traylon Ray or whoever. To sit there and run the ball, and the biggest issue, which is the defense. We'll get to that here in a second. But on offense, the biggest issue, Gene, how many years has this been now? 3 years with C.J. Donaldson.
Yes.
How many years are we going to sit here and talk about C.J. Donaldson running east and west and getting nowhere instead of getting downhill? The man's 240 pounds. And how many opportunities did they have where it was 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, and instead of going into the teeth of the defense, they're running CJ 6 yards out to the outside to get 2 more yards up north. Get that man downhill.
get them downhill. But again, Scott, let me tell you something. Probably, I would say this is the most disheartening loss because, again, we were up by 10. If you're going to call, for instance, late in the fourth quarter, call RPOs, right? Call RPOs because it gives you the run pass option. Everybody knows that. But not to do that, you take away that option. You make our offense one-dimensional against a good Pitt defense that stacked the box because they knew exactly what you were going to call. There was no, we need a little bit more imagination to the offense in games like this. And also, check this out. You have a script. Every coach at this level has a script. Hell, I had a script in Pop Warner as a head coach and in high school, right? So I know at this level you have a script. What are you doing late in the game with your script when you have 3 to 4 to possibly 5 different plays you can audible to in these type of situations? That means you have to come into this game being prepared, knowing that you may get into these type of situations. Don't look like a freaking deer in headlights when it comes to this. And now he looked like he had a damn diaper on the sideline. Okay. Yeah. So nah, dude, I'm pissed. And I'm usually not this critical. This is a damn game that we should have won by 10 to 12 to 13 freaking points easily because we played well enough to go up by 10 late in the fourth quarter, which means if you played well enough to go up by 10, you should have won this damn game. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And once again, the defense is a problem. And I gave them a pass last week. I gave them a pass in week 1. I'm not giving them a pass anymore because I think by now you have a good sample size. Week 1, it was Penn State. I don't know what you can really make out of that. Week 2, it's Albany. Yes, it was bad, but like we talked about in the game day show, you're probably going to do some different things in that game that you probably otherwise wouldn't do because you want to figure out what you can and can't do. Well, we found out today they can't do a whole lot in terms of pass defense. So, I don't know how many more times we're going to see the quarterback dead to rights in the pocket, have guys swarmed all around him. They got hands on him. He's got, all these different defensive players hanging around him, and he slips out of the backfield and picks up 20 yards downfield. That's happened way too much. The secondary is giving up big play after big play. They get to 3rd and long. Earlier in the game, they gave Pitt 2 first downs when it was 3rd and long and helped them get down the field on that scoring drive. That just gifted that you can't in these types of games. You cannot do those types of things.
Scout, and then it was 2nd and 30.
Yes, and then you have 2nd and 30, thinking, oh my gosh, you feel like you got Pitt on the ropes here. You're 2-3 plays away from getting the ball back and milking this thing out, and they take another deep shot, wide open. Well, sort of wide open-ish, but open enough to make the play. I don't know what you do. And yes, I understand that there are some fixable things, and I still believe that there are fixable things. But will they be fixed? I don't know. I mean, from what we've seen through the first 3 weeks of the season, I don't see that.
Well, no, here's the problem. Remember I said the best case scenario for WVU would be going into the Big 12 conference play 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. That's what I said. That's what we talked about, right? Now we're going into this our conference play at 1-2.
With a gauntlet coming up.
With a gauntlet of teams and talent and other talented teams coming up. So for me, I don't want to hear anything else about our D coordinator. I don't. I said it. Yeah, I said it. I don't want to hear anything else about our D coordinator. All right. You know how I feel about putting a lot of pressure and all these things on the players. So for me, this one is on the coaching staff. Okay. Yeah. And I know what they say in the press conference. Well, we prepared well all week. The players have to execute. Well, the coaches have to execute too.
Yeah. And that's been an issue. They got out coached today.
Right. They got out coached. You can't be like a horse. You lead a horse to water, and you hope that he drinks. Well, there was a whole bunch of horses and no damn water. Okay? Nah. Can't do it, dude. I can't even be, how what this game is. What was this? The 107th?
Yep.
Yeah, 107th, time that we played Pitt, Backyard Brawl, the whole nine, and you freaking lose 2 years in a row.
Or
Very
two out of the
similar,
last three.
actually.
Two out of the last three, yeah.
Well, yeah, two of the last three. Very similar, actually. Think about it. Very similar.
Had the game
So,
won in 22.
Had the game won in 22. We lost. Had the game won here. And you're actually, again, up by 10 with what? I think we were up by 10, Schuyler, with like 4 minutes and some change left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nah, dude. I'm so sorry. I can't. I can't. Yeah, I'm a little bit beside myself.
So now I believe the conversation is really going to shift, and we kind of knew this, but I mean, all offseason we were talking about how this team could be a Big 12 contender. They could be a team that could make some noise and get to the college football playoff. And to take a big step back
Right.
from this one, all of that is still in front of you. And I know that's hard to digest right now after what just happened. It is still in
Right.
front of you, but after what you have seen these first three games, it's hard to even put you for those words to even come out of your mouth because it just doesn't seem right. So now I don't know that I'm going to be talking about West Virginia's Big 12 contender. I'm not going to be talking about them as a college football playoff contender. I'm going to be talking about this team as, I mean, hell, can they even get bowl eligible at this point? They're 1-2.
Well, that's
And you've got
yep.
5 really tough games coming up. You got Kansas next week. I understand Kansas has lost 2 straight games, but that's a really well coached team. They're not going to lose 3 games in a row very many times under Lance Leipold. So they're going to have their work cut out for them. Lastly, here, Gene, I wanted to get your temperature check on this whole situation with Neal Brown and this whole situation at 1-2 heading into Big 12 play.
Listen, Neal Brown, to me, probably will be on the hot seat. I could only imagine the comments right now from the fans. I know how passionate I am, and I know how passionate Mountaineer Nation is about West Virginia football and sports all in general, but he's going to be on the hot seat, and rightfully so. At the end of the day, like you said, a well-coached Kansas team next week, it's going to be real tough to remedy this. And from a coach's perspective, I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I feel bad for the young men in that locker room because they deserve better.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have put it any better. I mean, this is a tough one to swallow for sure, especially against your heated rival. You had the game won, you lost it again. And I understand that you didn't have everything go the way you wanted to the first few years when Neal and his staff came here because of the portal, NIL. They had kind of a bare cupboard when they came in. But this is year 2 now of retaining all of your players. There's no more excuses. It's year 6. At some point, the narrative has to, or the expectations, I should say, need to change. It should not be 6-7 wins is good enough. At some point, that patience has to start to wear a little bit thin. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of season left, and this thing could go one way or another. History says it always ends up happening, or whatever happens is it will kind of lead to that decision from Ren Baker or whoever wants to make it. But it's going to be a long season after what we've seen defensively from this team, and kind of feels like the 2013 defense, if I ain't going to lie.
All over again. Let me just say this before we jump off. Listen.
Yeah.
This is not a personal attack against this man's character. I like him as a person.
Just criticism, that's all.
It's just I don't think he's ready for prime time as a coach. This is not a personal attack on his character. I think he's a great man. I think he is a man of character and value and all those good things. I'm purely saying this about him as a football coach. Let me just say that.
Way too many shots put into the foot today by WVU. Penalties, big plays wiped away. I mean, just one thing after another, one mistake after another. And at some point, you run out of excuses. So, I mean, heck, they can't even put the ball in the end zone on a kickoff very often. So, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about more of it next week. on Between the Ears and on the game walkthrough game day show. I may even have you come back on, Gene, for one of those shows to kind of dive more into this and really peel back the layers on this thing. But we'll go ahead and hop off of here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow on our X account at SI_WVU and let us know your thoughts. Hey, we'll interact with you on the YouTube channel. Let us know your thoughts on this game, the whole program as a whole, Neal Brown, whatever you want to say. Keep it as G-rated as you possibly can. I know it's hard, but we'll have some fun in the comment section because that's about the only fun that'll be had this weekend in the state of West Virginia. So thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the Mountaineer post-game show. Be sure to check back in with us tomorrow on the morning after, as Chris and I will dive into this one a little bit more as well. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.